Hey, a new Mario movie came out, only more than 20 or 30 years after the first attempt. For the record, I do have a Mario shirt and I do have a Mario hat, but film criticism is a serious thing, and so we're going to keep it professional. And on that note, hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Welcome to my channel, and we're going to talk about the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, I'm a little late to this one. By this point, the movie's already broken some box office records. Most critics have been pretty lukewarm towards it. Audiences have been much more receptive of it. Personally, I can see both sides, and so even though I might be a little late to the game, I do want to toss in my 2 cents. And the first thing I want to focus on is, of course, the good. I think it's always good to focus on the good first. And I'm going to say that one of the first things I really liked about this movie is the art style, because here's the thing, Illumination's been around for a long time, and I'm not going to claim that the Super Mario Brothers movie is a revolutionary animated film in terms of its look or animation style. Some of the characters do look like other Illumination film characters. But that being said, I've always appreciated the artistry behind Illumination. I like how they're kind of able to really adapt a art style to their form of animation. I remember the first time I saw the Lorax, and I was actually kind of blown away how much it felt like a modern day Dr. Seuss book. And in that same way, when Mario Brothers started, it felt like a modern day Nintendo movie. I'm pretty sure this movie takes place in the 80s and stuff because no one's using cell phones, all the arcades are retro. I even think that the cars have manual stick drives. It feels like the movie takes place in the 80s, which is when the Nintendo Entertainment System would have been on the market. And so, as a result, I kind of feel like the movie, even though it's made using modern animation techniques, it kind of feels like an 80s movie. And so, I appreciate that. I like that quite a bit. I also like most of the voice acting. I think Anna Joy Taylor is very good as Princess Peach. Bowser is played by Jack Black. He's definitely very good. Jack Black, despite being a big name talent, seems to actually like being a voice actor. He also voiced the shark in Shark Tale and Poe in Kung Fu Panda, and he uses different voices for a couple of those characters. They don't all just sound like him talking. So I always like to see when Jack Black is involved in an animated film because he seems to be like someone who enjoys the voice acting aspect of doing voice work. And I think it's Charlie Day who does Luigi. He's pretty good. And Chris Pratt is fine. Really, he's fine. They do show a commercial at the beginning of the movie where Chris Pratt is using the very stereotypical Italian voice, and I think they did that for a reason. They really want to show you that, hey, this voice isn't going to work for a whole 90 minutes. We have to have him sound a little bit more, grounded. But he still has a Brooklyn accent, and he still does a couple of the iconic woohoos and things like that. And, it was fine. I kind of forgot it was Chris Pratt after a while. I also liked the soundtrack. They incorporated a lot of the classic Nintendo and Mario score pieces into the movie. Really like that. They do have a lot of 80s songs, and it took me a minute to figure out why they were doing this until I realized that if this did, in fact, take place during the 80s, these would have been the hits on the radio during that time period. So I think they did that to emphasize that this was the 80s. Not entirely sure, and I totally understand why some people felt they were out of place. But, again, it's not like these are terrible songs. In fact, songs from the 80s, dare I say it, are a lot more memorable and hummable and singable than many of the songs now. So I would prefer kids hear really good music than, I'm not going to say all, but there's a lot of music today that's popular that really has no business calling itself music. And with that, it was funny. I mean, it had some funny moments, and it had like a nice little story. I definitely can see where kids would enjoy it. Now, talking about the bad, it's not a great movie. The story is nothing spectacular, and really, I don't know what I was expecting from a Mario Brothers story. Everyone wants to act like, oh, the story could have been so much better, and it's like, but how could it have been so much better? I like Mario not because of the story. I like Mario because of the colors, the sounds, and the gameplay. The movie can certainly recapture the sounds, it can recapture the animation and the art style, but you can't play a movie. Mario Kart 64 and all those other Mario Kart games, those are fun because you're controlling it. In the movie, it's pretty, it definitely looks better than many of the games, but you can't control it. And so you watch scenes like that and you kind of wonder, okay, it's not as spectacular as it was. Really, the only Mario game I can think of that had like a great story was, the Mario RPG, which they made with Square Enix, and also one of the Paper Mario games, which had like the dreams and stuff. That was like really fun in my opinion, but that would have been a terrible first attempt at a Mario movie because it required a little bit of history with the franchise to adapt that. So they have a pretty standard story where, Mario goes on a pipe through Brooklyn into Mushroom Kingdom, and his brother is captured, and Bowser's trying to marry Princess Peach. And of course, there's been a lot made about Princess Peach being like a, kick-ass warrior and things like that. And here's the thing, I'm fine with it, personally. I don't know what you were expecting. I mean, I don't think her being captured by Bowser needing to be saved would have made the movie any better. And Peach has been a more independent character in the games for several years now. So it makes perfect sense that she would be on equal playing field with the guys, if you will. And it's not like Mario is ever overshadowed by her. He's very competent. So, she's fine. I thought it was one of the running jokes that was a little weird is that Mario doesn't like mushrooms. And, this is not like a new thing. I remember in the Robert Altman Popeye movie, Popeye didn't eat spinach because that was their get out of jail free card. Like they couldn't have him eat the spinach early in the movie, so he doesn't like spinach and he doesn't eat it till the end. And, there you go. That being said, they kind of dropped the joke 25 minutes into the movie, and then at one point Mario's just eating mushrooms like normal, and it's like, I kind of wonder why they made that a joke when they didn't really have like a game plan on how to wrap that up. It's just really bizarre. I also have to admit that the movie is suffering a little bit from what I would refer to as reference fatigue, where most of my smiles came from references. You see the Shy Guys, you hear a certain tune, something that evokes a nostalgic trip, and so you smile and you recognize it. But at the end of the day, it's like, but what's it really doing in the story? Like, you're not connecting to anything new in the story, you are just connecting to things that they're referencing from your childhood, and I think that's kind of crummy. And finally, since we're speaking about voice acting, I think it's really interesting that Chris Pratt got so much hate for doing this character when Seth Rogen is right there, and he is absolutely the worst in this movie. And look, I always have to emphasize this. I've met Seth Rogen. He was very nice to me, and he is not an untalented individual. But his Donkey Kong is crap. He makes no attempt to do a voice. He's just being Seth Rogen. And it's interesting that when you see like the actors for the movie like are dressing up as their Mario characters at the world premiere, except for Seth Rogen, you wonder if he even wanted to do this. And then, you read an interview where Seth Rogen told the producers, hey, I'm just going to do my voice. I'm not going to act. I'm not going to create a voice. Don't ask me to do that. So you go like, why are you hiring this guy? There are so many people who could create a much more interesting Donkey Kong. Rogen clearly is not interested in giving his all to this performance. So I don't understand why they hired him. And I really don't understand why Chris Pratt got so much hate for this, when in reality, Chris Pratt probably did one of the better jobs. He found the balance between he sounds like the Brooklyn Italian Mario, but he sounds normal too. So I don't know why he was so persecuted, if you will, during this whole process. Either way, I definitely understand both sides of the story. So what would I give this movie? Someone who grew up with the Nintendo games and someone who watches movies and reviews them critically. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to give the Super Mario Brothers movie 3 stars. Now, as I explain on my channel and in my print reviews, 2.5 and 3 stars, those are the ones you have to have the full context of because that's a line. 3 stars is technically a recommendation, but it's not a strong recommendation. And I'm recommending it primarily for kids. And I know that it seems almost silly to do that because we just came off of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. We just came off of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Those are way better family films. I am not going to lie. The Super Mario Brothers movie looks really weak in comparison to movies like those. But what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of looking at what's in the theaters at the moment. And there's really nothing else for kids out there. And, you know, maybe if the movie was stupid and insulting to kids' intelligence, maybe I would be a little against it. But you know what? Hey, it's the only family film that's going to be around for a while. Because I know Suzumi opens next week, but kids can't watch Suzumi. That one's really made for teenagers. It's fine. The kids will like it. In fact, I even kind of sat there and the thought crossed my mind a couple times that if this movie had come out when I was 8 or 10, I would have loved this movie. You know, it's bright, it's colorful, it's got energy, it's fun, and it's not stupid. It really isn't stupid. So, you know, I can give it a slight recommendation. Now, I will admit that if you are an adult going by yourself, it might not do much for you. And so if that's the case, if you're an adult and you're looking for entertainment, you know, Ben Affleck's Air is in theaters. That's a really good movie if it's just the adults. But if you're doing a family outing, I don't think Super Mario Brothers movie is especially offensive or anything like that. I think it's perfectly fine. So, 3 stars for the Super Mario Brothers movie. I would like to know what your thoughts on this are, though. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.